This morning we are reading the 10th canto, chapter 81, texts 21 through 23. The astonishing reciprocation of the Supreme Lord. Iti tachintayananta praptuniya grihantikam suryanale nandu sanskashaye vimane sarvato vritam vichitro pavano dhyanai kujagdvijakulai protphulla kamudamboja kalarotpalavaribi jushtam swalankritai pumbi stribhischa harinakshibi kimidam kasya va sthanam katham tad idamithyabhu. So now we're the part of the story where Sudama has come back home after having visited Krishna. The translation and purport by servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shukadev Goswami continued, thinking thus to himself, Sudama finally came to the place where his home stood. But that place was now crowded on all sides with towering celestial palaces, rivaling the combined brilliance of the sun, fire, and the moon. There were splendorous courtyards and gardens, each filled with flocks of cooing birds and beautified by ponds in which Kumuda, Amboja, Kalara, and Utpala lotuses grew. Finely attired men and doe-eyed women stood in attendance. Sudama wondered, what is all this? Whose property is it? How has this all come about? In the purport, it says, Srila Sridhar Swami gives the sequence of the Brahmana's thoughts. First, seeing a great, unfamiliar effulgence, he thought, what is this? Then noting the palaces, he asked himself, whose place is this? And recognizing it as his own, he wondered, how has it become so transformed? So, of course, this is a story of Krishna and Sudama. It's a very heart-touching story. And we will try to share some reflections from today's verse. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Chatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So looking at this story of Krishna and Sudama, we've been exploring this story for quite a few days now, and we've heard many recaps. And yet another recap. Sudama was Krishna's childhood classmate, very dear friend of Krishna. And Krishna was recalling all those adventures they had when they went out, try to fetch wood for their Gurudev when they were in school, in Sandipani Muni's ashram, and so many nice adventures they had. And Sudama went his own way as a Brahmana. Didn't do too well financially speaking, but his devotion to Krishna was steady, deep, and unparalleled. He got married, he had children, but as it sometimes happens, some of us don't do so well financially, just the way it is. And it is very common among the Brahmanas, so it is bona fide to not be wealthy if you're a Brahmana. It's fine because Brahmanas, they live off of the charity that comes from the consulting work that they do. Consulting, they give guidance, they give Vedic direction to society, and then whatever they get from the reciprocation, they live off of that. They are not employees. Actually, none of the three upper classes or upper castes are employees. Only the Shudras are employees. So, the Brahmanas are the highest, but they're not necessarily, because they're to maintain their independence, they don't take employment. So they live off of charity and they live off of the consulting fees that they get, dakshina and all that. And a lot of people, they just give a little bit. Sometimes they give more. It all depends how generous the person is. But the Brahmanas are very satisfied with what they get. And they also live very, very low overhead, low maintenance lifestyles. They don't accumulate too much. And even if by chance they get a lot of dakshina and all that, they give a lot of that away because their needs remain meager. They keep them intentionally meager because they don't want to lose their simplicity and they don't want to lose their sense of independence. Of course, with Sudama, it was a little more of an extreme case where, the poverty was a bit much. Sometimes they would go days without eating, and there was the place where they would cook the pile of stones there, right? And then they put a pot on it, and you put some wood under there, and then you can cook something on there. So it turns out that Sudama's wife was complaining to him that, hey, look at our stove. The cat has moved into the stove area inside where the stones are, and she's given birth to a litter of kittens. I mean, it's pretty bad. We haven't turned on the fire for weeks, it seems. So, it was a pretty sad situation. But Sudama was happy in the sense that, hey, we have a few grains here. And his wife said, look, you remember Krishna, right? He's a king. It's a royalty. Why don't you go and visit him, just see how things are going? The intention was maybe they'll get a good dakshina and all that. And Sudama understood and said, yes, I'll go, but I'm not going to ask him for anything. I'm just going to go to meet him as a friend. And of course, he's a Supreme Lord and I worship him. And any excuse I get to see the Lord is welcome. It's a long walk away. So he went to visit him. Of course, his wife gave him this chip rice, a flat rice, that not much of a gift, but it's all they had. That's all they had. So Sudama wanted to give it to Krishna. As he was approaching, it wasn't like sweet rice or anything, it was just flat rice. And he was keeping it in a pouch close to his armpit and just all these things. And by the time he reached the palace, it wasn't sweet rice anymore, more like sweat rice, But still, he had it with him. And by the time he got there and Krishna said, hey, it's so nice to see you. And he just warmly welcomed him and worshipped him. And then Krishna, didn't you bring anything for me? And so now I was so embarrassed. I'm not going to offer this sweat rice to him. Krishna grabbed it from him and said, I see you're hiding that. And he took a handful of that. And with that, Krishna was satisfied. And in this same Bhagavatam, the exact same word for word, ditto copy of the Bhagavad Gita verse is also mentioned. Patram pushpam phalam toyam, the very famous verse. Anyone who offers with love, just even something simple like a leaf, fruit, flower, I'll accept it. Some water. So that verse is found in Bhagavatam also and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And then I sent him off back to his home in his merry way. And Sudama was so happy because he just had a spiritual, he said, I felt like I was in the spiritual world. That's what he felt like. And he was literally, right? It's whatever Krishna is at a spiritual world. And Sudama was so much ecstasy. And then he realized, Krishna didn't give me any dakshina, anything big or anything like that. Just kind of gave me my clothes back and that's it. But it's good. I'm glad he didn't give me any money because, who knows? I'm just a conditioned soul. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of money and it can just completely bewilder a conditioned soul like me. I don't deserve this kind of thing. Besides, it's a good thing. Krishna spared me all the confusion that might come with wealth and all the ego and things like that. So I'm just happy that Krishna spent time with me. And he is happily going back his way. And now in this verse, we see Krishna has reciprocated in an astonishing way, where he's given him much more than his wildest imagination. Of course, this made Sudama happy, but that was not the basis of his happiness. He remained detached from matter, as explained later on, and he perfected his Krishna consciousness, and he employed his wealth that Krishna has given him in reminding him of Krishna, reminding others and spending it in Krishna's service. So we can easily envision him, in his big palace, inviting his friends to come and do kirtan, glorification of Krishna, and so on. That's what devotees do when they get access to resources, that they spread the glories of Krishna even more. So we've been exploring this topic, and Krishna mentions, there are 4 kinds of people in Bhagavad Gita, right? 4 kinds of people. Chaturvidha bhatante mam, jana sukritan arjuna, artha jigyasu arthati, gyani cha bhartarshapa. 4 kinds of people who approach me, begin devotional service. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and one who's searching for knowledge of the absolute. So this is an opportunity for us. What is our motive, right? So like, say for example, we have a friend who never comes to the temple, but we know, we've been inviting him, and all of a sudden we see that they're coming and they're praying and they're closing their eyes really tight. They're trying to connect. And this is a guy we've been calling for like 3 years. He never comes. Yeah, it's okay, go ahead. And all of a sudden he's going to the temple and is really praying. What's going on? We might wonder what changed in their lives. What is prompting them to come? What is their motive? But infinitely more important than wondering about someone else's motive, we should wonder about our own motive. What is my motive? Why do I engage in this Krishna conscious practice? Is it the same motive I had when I first approached this process, when I first came into contact? How have my motives changed as time has gone by? We can take a poll, who came to this movement because of curiosity, just wondering what it's all about. Or who came, you can ask around the devotees in their circle and get a sense, who came just to want to solve a problem like a health, financial, relationship, or other material issue. These are very impactful issues. Or who came from the drive to seek and understand God. Just understand that. So Krishna has given those categories, right? Now, in the purport to that verse, she probably explains, of course, he quotes the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the very famous verse. So one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably and without desire for material profit or gain. through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Right? So often as we grow older, we ask ourselves, what is the essence of Krishna consciousness? We know that it is, of course, pure, unalloyed bhakti. When we hear that, we might feel discouraged. We notice that, I'm not pure. I'm not what you can call unalloyed. Can barely understand what that means, really. I mean, yeah, maybe theoretically, but see, when our acharyas speak of unalloyed bhakti, they refer to the purity of the bhakti, not the purity of the performer of the bhakti. The two, there's a big difference. The purity of the task, of the action, not the purity of the person in the conditioned state. Something to keep in mind. Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that any activity done for Krishna, the activity itself that is favorable, it's in the favorable mood, right, with the intention of wanting to please Krishna, and which is free from the mixture of the selfish desires, that qualifies as bhakti. In other words, whenever we do something for Krishna to please him, and we have no other intention, then in that moment we acted with unalloyed bhakti. This means that, when the friend who does not practice bhakti comes to the temple and brings something to the altar of Radha Murlidhar with a desire to please the Lord or his devotees, then he has performed an act of unalloyed bhakti, although he himself as a performer may not be pure in his practices or whatever it may be. This means that no matter where we stand in our devotional life, in our progress, we can always focus on this understanding. I am doing this for Radha and Krishna. I am giving this to them. It is theirs. This action, this particular offering, it is for their sake, right? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. It is for their enjoyment. It is not meant for me. So if we have this consciousness during our service, even if it's a brief moment of service, we are acting in pure bhakti for as long as we can stay on that platform, even if it's a few seconds. So what is it that makes it pure? It is all about our motivation, our intention, and our consciousness at the time of that activity. Now, obviously, those of us who are all conditioned, like myself, not everybody in this audience is conditioned, but those of us who are, we're not able to stay on this platform all the time. That's fine. We return to other levels where we again think of our own interests, our own desires, our own plans. For instance, we may offer an action to Krishna partially because our desire to serve him is mixed with simply us liking to do that activity. That's fine. But it's not pure bhakti in that sense, because our own selfishness is mixed into it. But when we do something purely just for Krishna's pleasure, for a moment, for a second, for a millisecond, that is pure bhakti. And that offering is eternal. Even when we die, just a simple garland, this nice devotee is offering to Krishna. See? That little offering with a pure heart, it remains in the eternal records. Even when we die, the eternal benefit stays with us. That act of the neighbor or the friend who comes to the temple, not knowing much about the philosophy or sambandha vidya, prayojana tattva, but they offer a flower, thinking this is for God. I offer this to him on the altar. That is pure bhakti. Krishna will never forget it. Everything else goes away with time, but the moments of pure bhakti stay. And as they accumulate, our bhakti account grows. Sometimes Krishna is so pleased by a moment of bhakti that he's willing to forget all our mistakes and just consider that one act of bhakti. In such cases, he offers his devotee a transcendental result that is beyond the devotee's wildest imagination. Bhakti is such a nice thing because it is accessible to everyone. Therefore, we can immediately start to engage in unalloyed devotional service. We don't need to, be first super pure, super pakka, everything. You can start today. This is a little thing we're going to do with pure motivation. So, as we explore, as we reflect on the story of Sudama, Brahmana, and this particular verse is brought up a lot, the 4 kinds of people who begin devotional service. The question to all of you, are these 4 kinds of people considered sakama bhaktas? Sakama means someone who has selfish motive. Are they considered that? Because we have nishkama bhaktas and we have sakama bhaktas. So these 4 categories, artha, jigyasu, jnani, are they considered sakama bhaktas? Yes or no? Anybody want to venture? Because Prabhupada explained something about this. No? Anybody? Let me ask the question again. Are these 4 kinds of people considered sakama bhaktas? Let's see, I see in the chat. Someone has written. Krishna says to be considered saintly, but it's a yes, no question. Are they sakama or not? Krishna calls them udara. Udara means very generous.
They are.
They are sakama bhaktas, right? Because they have some kind of motivation. That's what I thought too. Let's see what Prabhupada explains. So Prabhupada explains this in the 5th canto, somewhere in the purport, 18th chapter. He says, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that even if a devotee wishes the Lord to fulfill a particular desire, the devotee should not be considered a sakama bhakta, devotee with some motive. See? So I was wrong. Anand Bihari Prabhu, I think you were also wrong along with me.
I'm happy to be wrong along with you.
Yeah, I'm wrong all the time,
I don't mind being wrong.
Yeah. I remember Mansi Ganga, I told her once, I was wrong about that. And she said, yeah, I like a guy who can admit he's wrong, And I was like, yeah, I'm wrong a lot. I'm wrong a lot. That wasn't very good. Anyway, not good to be wrong a lot. But I was wrong about this. I thought, yeah, there's a but the Prabhupada clarified. He says that they're not. They should not be considered sakam. Why? It's an interesting, subtle nuance that I think is pretty powerful, that we can reflect on. He says, Artha and Artharthi who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief from misery or for some money are not sakama bhaktas, although they appear to be. See, that's interesting. Being neophyte devotees, they're simply ignorant. Later in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Udara sarva eva ite. They're all magnanimous. Udara. Yesterday, Madana-gopāla Prabhu explained how Udara, when Krishna said Udara, Ramanujacharya, he explains this point. How can someone approach Krishna to beg something, be magnanimous? But they're magnanimous because they're fulfilling Krishna's thirst. Krishna says, you're generous to me because you came to me. You're generous to me because you're giving your love in a sense. See? And so for me, they were generous because they're giving me something that I'm seeking. Same with Sudama. Sudama came with this little bag of rice, chipped rice, flat rice. It was really bad, not particularly offerable. Like it was old. But Krishna is looking for the saturation of love within that rice that was there. It was brimming with love, and Krishna is thirsty for that. So it's so generous of you, Sudama. You gave me so much. I can't repay you for this. There's no way. I give you palaces that float in the sky, and it's not going to be enough because you've given me something. You have given something to someone who has everything that they need, and yet you've given me something that I don't have. That is what Krishna is thirsting for. So Krishna He considers these not Sakama Bhaktas. Why? Or Prabhupada explains why. Is because, see, even when Krishna fulfills their desire, they don't leave Krishna, they continue the devotional service like Sudama did. Then what is the Sakama Bhakta? Sakama Bhakta is one who asks Krishna for something and Krishna fulfills it. Then he says, okay, we're done. I go my way, you go yours. And he doesn't care for Krishna anymore. That is a Sakama Bhakta. You see, that's a distinction. But if we maintain, my Lord, I asked just for a little bit of comfort. You give me way more, honestly, than I deserve. And I'm going to continue serving you. I realize my foolishness in asking for petty things, but I'm going to continue serving you. Dhruv Maharaj had the same realization. He wanted this massive kingdom bigger than his grandfather's. His grandfather happened to be Lord Brahma himself. And then when he got it, he was like, my Lord, I feel so bad. I asked for something so petty when you yourself are the diamond and asked for broken glass. So Prabhupada explains, in the beginning, a devotee may harbor some desire. In due course of time, it will vanish. If we look in our hearts and we're still harboring, it's fine. Due course of time means we need to be patient. It'll vanish. It's okay. Let's live with it. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam enjoins Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Person with broader intelligence, whether he is full of all material desire, free from material desire, or has a desire for liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Yeah. So I'm just going to skip. Now, the point is that the devotional service itself is so perfect that it'll have an impact on us. The process of devotional service is very perfect, very powerful. You feel transcendental pleasure, and then you quickly become purified of material contamination. This is seen. So the purifying nature of devotional service itself will have an impact regardless of initial reason for entry. So Krishna only sees that a person has approached him. That in and of itself is such a great thing. We can follow in the footsteps of Sudama and approach Krishna. And if we are fortunate to have a spouse like Sudama's spouse, we encourage him to approach Krishna. That is a great fortune. Of course, Sudama was already absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But still, his wife said, no, go and visit Krishna. It'll be nice. So like that, we can visit Krishna. Of course, among the four, Krishna says, among the four who approach him, who are the favorite? He says, the Gyanis are my favorite. Of all the four, right? Artha, the Gyani. So he said, the Gyanis are my favorite. And one time there's a devotee in our congregation from Guyana, and I told him that Krishna's favorite type of devotee are the Gyanis. And he got so happy. I was wondering why they're smiling so much. I realized I had to clarify. No. I'm not talking about the Guyanese. I'm talking about Gyanis. Anyway, so when we come in front of the Lord, either in the temple or our home, or even when we're chanting with care and attention, we're in front of the Lord. We can then talk to him in full honesty. We can humbly express our own shortcomings in our devotion. We can also pray to ask for purification. Of course, we know all this. We can ask for strength, courage, and wisdom to accept his plan for us, especially if it doesn't conform to our own idea of comfortable progress still. Give you the strength, clarity to power through this. What we can take home from this story of Sudama today is that the Lord fully understands our situation. The Lord fully knows our heart. He gently encourages us to turn to him while still giving our individual free spirit the space to explore and express itself. Our job is to daily sit down with our conditioned, divided self. Daily sit down. Give our conditioned minds a pep talk to not spend another moment shooting ourselves in the foot. Let us examine our motives and also our situations, and that may not be fully conducive, and then pray to the Lord to lift us up. Let us hand over a little bit more of ourselves to his will. A little bit more than yesterday, if we can. That's our progress. So we can chant together with all this intensity and focus in this prayerful way. Just one time. Let's not waste this chance to do it, this chanting of this Hare Krishna. This is one time, one Mahamantra, we'll do it together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
What a wonderful class, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
As a host, I'll take advantage of my service and ask a question first. Krishna knows our situation. So how do we understand that? Sometimes we hear devotees say, I joined this movement, I gave my health, my youth, my time to the movement. Now I'm in my 40s and I'm broke, and I have my needs, my health is gone. What's wrong here? Does Krishna know their situation? How does that happen like this when devotees feel that way? I've given my youth and now I'm broke and no one cares. Question.
Hare Krishna. Yes. It is this is a very multifaceted question because there's multiple perspectives, of course. There's a perspective of Krishna. What does Krishna think about my situation? There's a perspective of no one cares. Who is this no one cares that we're talking about? Right? And then there's a perspective of my own choices. That am I being fully honest when I'm making this expression? Yes, there's no doubt. We did that. A lot of devotees gave their youth. So this no one cares aspect is an indictment of our society. Society, whether it can be institutional society or the circle of devotees, maybe not institutional, but the circle of devotees. And of course, what we gave to the institution or to the society. And now I'm not feeling much reciprocation. I'm not feeling much care. And sometimes even worse, goes worse than that, where there is a sense of not just feeling of not being cared for, but utter neglect and even abuse. I gave so much, and what did I get for it? Nothing but bad words from people. Forget about gratitude. I'm just getting more abuse. It is a very, very difficult situation. And it's pertinent, it's relevant because it's an unfortunate and all too common reality. Where devotees have given so much, their best years, best time, and now they're kicked to the curb. I personally know so many such devotees who gave their youth to the movement, and now they see that others are doing really well in the organization, and they themselves are not either being respected, recognized, or even taken care of for the basic needs, and they have to now scramble this towards the last couple of decades of their lives just to make ends meet. So from Krishna's perspective, of course, Krishna never forgets, and Krishna does care. He does care for them, and he does bring to them what they need. He carries what he fulfills his promise. These devotees do get taken care of for their needs, and Krishna recognizes that, and he runs to their rescue. There's that aspect. These devotees make tremendous progress, that instead of having to go through multiple lifetimes of purification, everything gets taken care of in one lifetime, and they're guaranteed pretty much to go back home, back to Godhead. So there's those aspects to it as well. Because it's such a nuanced and multifaceted, complex situation, it's very difficult to categorize them and address them in one way. If I look at myself, for example, I can question that. I'm crying. That I did so much for you, Krishna, and what am I getting? Nothing in return right now. I'm getting no recognition. In fact, people are just framing me and blaming me for things I didn't even do, and just it's really bad. I'm sick. I could say that. but then I examined myself. Maybe my own motivations weren't 100% pure. And actually, I'm doing a lot better than I actually deserve. Like Sudama was thinking, and the kind of poverty that Sudama was going through, what we have here is nothing by comparison. I mean, this idea of I'm going for days and days without eating just because there's no access to food. We don't have that issue here. A lot of the times, what we're crying for is well beyond the realm of basic needs. That's why this story of Sudama can really inspire us. That's why I kind of zoomed into that stove, with this cat giving birth to kittens. That means they haven't used that stove, because in days or weeks. It shows the abject poverty of it, and yet he was happy, or he was content. And we're living in this country. Prabhupada said in a lecture once, America thinks it's so nice. There's practically no poor man here. And the poorest man has access to hundreds of dollars a month. The government situation is so nice. Prabhupada said that. And it's true. I mean, look in this country. This is a country where the poor people are fat. Right? I mean, you look at the poorest people, they're like, wait a minute. These are poor people? This doesn't look like, they're doing pretty well. Of course, for whatever reason, there are people going hungry, and that's happening here. But compared to actual poor countries, they're doing pretty well in one sense. They have lots of options available. We have the government support is there. We have support of charitable organizations, and the most fortunate poor people are those who come into contact with the incredible devotees like Adi Purush Prabhu, who have given their lives. So this is a great fortune of these quote unquote unfortunate people. So my point I'm trying to say is that, yes, if we look from the point of view of Bhagavatam and some of these, especially you look at the Avanti Brahmana who was being abused at the end, you read his story, but he still maintained his Krishna consciousness. We can get inspiration from them. Although karmically, we don't get more or less than what we deserve, but the devotee's heart is moved when they see other devotees suffering. So therefore, our job in this organization is to give ourselves or help those who are going through this kind of crises, and this is a very real thing. That's our job, is to, if we find out about them, let's at least give them more of ourselves, our love, our care, our support, whatever way possible. And if nothing, at least let's give them the respect that they deserve. The respect, the attention, and let us glorify them. Let's bring them forward. We all need that love and respect, and in particular when they get older. That's when there's a tendency of being neglected. So when devotees get older, we should do extra. We should make an extra effort to give them more love and respect and care. Because this sense also does happen. That gives so much movement, and now people don't even look at me when I come into the room. They don't even acknowledge my presence. Now, when those devotees are older, when we give them even this little bit of love and respect and care, we get a huge gift. We get the blessings of all the tapasya they've done. Think about it. Huge gift. They look at us, wow, you acknowledge me. Come sit next to me. And then we hear their stories. Even if it's the 20th time the same story, it's fine. Let's hear it. And we get so much blessing from them. The blessing of all those decades of tapasya. So there's things we can do right now, while recognizing that we have failed as a society, organizationally in many ways. But what can I do today? So we can look at it from that way.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice, practical answer. Yeah, what can I do? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, dear devotees, please ask your questions. Share your reflections.
We have about 1 or 2 minutes before the curtain opens.
Who's the most introverted? Who's the most Vinisha? Go ahead, Vinisha.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I don't know if I'm the most introverted, but thank you very much for the floor. Just in one moment, Gurudev, do you have You concluded by saying, let us hand over a little bit more of ourselves every day. Do you have sort of a practical 1-minute tip for us all as to how to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do we hand more of ourselves? A lot of times we feel that we are in the grip of Maya, that Maya is gripping us. It's actually not that so much. It's like Maya is like a tree. We are gripping the tree. We are the one holding on really tight. And then we're saying, hey, tree, let go of me. No. We are the ones who are, and then we're crying, Maya has got his grip on me. I'm the one running after her. I'm the one holding onto that branch of the tree and not letting go, and then pretending that it's the tree. The tree's like, get out of me. I don't even like you. It's kind of like that. So what can we do? We can pray to Krishna that, my Lord Krishna, save me today from, I have this mountain of pretension, driven by my false ego and my I think someone got unmuted by mistake. Okay, so what is this mountain of ego? It's mountain of ego in the sense that I can enjoy myself, and it's a mountain, but I can pray to Krishna that this mountain of pretension, please take away 1 ounce from that mountain today, 1 ounce of pretension. Let me breathe. Oh God, thank you so much. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not in love with Maya anymore. I'm not going to pretend I'm not in love with this specific kind of selfish thought process, selfish enjoyment. I'm not going to pretend. I'm just let it go. Now that I'm not pretending about it, I'm going to let it go for good. I'm not going to do this anymore. It could be something small, very subtle, some bad habit or some line of thought that takes us to the wrong place. Today, this line has to go. This one line of thought, it's gone. My Lord, you help me today. Okay. We'll take it up on the other side.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Reflections, dear devotees, questions. This is the afterglow. Please. William, that's a good try. Gave us a heart. Nice. Thank you. I mean, it's essential. It's very essential reflection. Love. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for class today.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, William Prabhu.
Thank you.
Always nice to see you. Your Jamuna Jaya.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for class. Usually I have to run right off on Sundays, so I'm happy to be here for a few extra seconds. I just really want to thank you so much for that last answer you gave to Benicia about respecting the elders. I've always loved in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about one of the austerities of the body is to give honor to our elders, particularly our parents. And as I have my mom left, and that's such a blessing to me. And I spend a lot of time, particularly this time of year, with her. And I miss things, I quote unquote miss things. But I really feel so close to Krishna when I'm doing it because I know she is his beloved child, and I wouldn't have stand a chance in this life without this amazing woman's piety and instruction. So I thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm off to mom's this afternoon, so I feel like I carry your blessings with me to her by your statement. So thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's a good reflection on your part, Jamuna Jaya. Thank you. Yeah, it's so nice when we feel it, when we see the smile on someone who is senior to us, and they're smiling because they're feeling like blessing us. They're smiling because they're pleased with our whatever little thing that we did for them. That smile is very precious because there's so many decades of experience that comes with that, which then we can reflect, hey, I'm also one day going to be an elder. Do I want to be an elder who will attract the kind of care and attention? Do I want to be kind of person where people want to stay away from me? Because, we see that too. Do I want to be the, we see these elderly devotees and just elderly folks in general who are always so happy and smiley and they're just laughing all the time. And they're very sweet. We've seen that. And then we also see other different varieties as well. Maybe not so happy, or sometimes some are just bitter all the time. It's just our life that makes us who we are and how we choose to deal with it. And sometimes I wonder, I see these happy elder devotees. It's clear that they had bodily pains when they woke up this morning. It's very clear. But still they're smiling and laughing through it. Why? Because they've recognized that, no, life is more than just these creaking joints. It's worth smiling about. Hey, I made it this far. I should be happy. That in itself is like, wow, I woke up this morning. Hey, I beat the average longevity by, I'm like now 5 years ahead. So there's so many things to be grateful for. So if we as elders, because we're all hopefully going to be elders someday, can cultivate a kind of atmosphere that invites an environment of blessings, that we want to give blessings, then we'll receive also blessings, because we're also not very far from being elders ourselves.
Wow. Yeah, time is limited. If you love somebody, call them up, tell them you love them, treat them nicely on Srila Prabhupada's behalf. Time is limited, right? But that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, who is the most childlike on this call? Let's see. William, would you like to say Hare Krishna to finish the yagya today? Despite the beard, we see the child, the inner child. Unmute yourself and say Hare Krishna, please, William.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The class is over.
Hare Krishna.
Happy Sunday, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. All glories to you. Wonderful class. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Obeisance to all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Prabhupada.